this is Neil, back with the third episode for our custom furnace. Not going to waste any time. When we left off, there was a little bit of a bug. When you would place it, there would be two fronts if you were just at like the right angle, not a right angle, but at the correct angle to the block to where it would do both of those. Found a fix for that. Pretty straightforward. It is this line right here. So I'm actually not going to put that in the description from the previous one, but I'm going to kind of give you a moment to take a look at it here. So essentially, if side equals 1, then this right here, icon top, will be the icon. Else, if side equals 0, this dot icon top will be the texture for it. Else, side does not equal metadata, it will be this dot block icon. What is this dot block icon set to? It's set to the side. Else, it will be this dot icon front. And icon front is either going to be the front on or front off of the alabaster oven, depending on that is active state, which gets passed over again from this right here. Cool? So yeah, have a peek at that. This is the correct one. I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of this right here. So now we can have our top icons. Sweet, just like vanilla furnaces. So where did we leave off last time? Last time we actually did the set default direction. What I actually want to do is I left some to-dos here. We're actually going to do the onBlockActivated today, tonight, right now, this episode. We're not going to do random display tick because that's actually particles. We'll come back to those. However, this, we actually want to uncomment this and we want it to be active. And really what it's saying is, hey, we need a class for tileentity alabaster oven. And we're actually going to just go ahead and create that. Except this is going to be under our tileentity class. Tileentity, like we had it before. So we're going to go ahead and finish that. We don't need to save, it's already there. We're going to continue to have an error message here, and I'll kind of get to that in a second. However, one of the things that we need is, this is one of those, when we had this error for a while up here on this alabaster oven, we had to add the unimplemented methods. This is one of them, so we need to actually go ahead and put that in. Right now it's just saying return null. We don't want it to return null. We actually want it to return a new tile entity alabaster oven, right? Because that is what we created. Alabaster oven. Alabaster oven. Oh, doi. We need some of those. Oh, what's going on? Don't like it when it does that. I don't like that. I don't like it. We're going to leave that as is for right now. One of the things that we do need to do, though, is we have this error. And really what it's saying is cannot cast tile entity from that. What is going on here? What? Let's do this. Oh, you know what? Good grief. Our tile entity, of course, needs to extend tile entity. like so. We save that. Likes it. But we still have this error, this set GUI display name in string. So what we're actually going to do is we are going to get that set up. But before we do that, we actually need to declare a variable. And actually we need to you know what, we're going to wait on that. We're going to wait. No 0. So we want a private string to be the type of variable, and it is going to be localized name, like so. And then this bad boy right here, we can say this dot localized name is equal to display name, like so. So we can save that. We now no longer have any errors in our alabaster oven, and we've implemented those things that we kind of had to-dos on before. We still have a couple of to-dos in here. We're going to get to one of them in this episode. So let's move along. I want to work on our GUI today. So really what we need to do is we're going to spend some more time in our main modding class, and we're actually going to come down here to this area, to our Forge Mod Loader initialization event. We spent a lot of time in our pre-initialization, but this one is just in the initialization event. And what we're going to do is we are going to do something a little like this. We're going to reference that tile entity that we just created. So tile entity alabaster oven, and it needs to know that it is a class, so we'll hit dot and we'll choose class, and then it needs an ID, and this isn't an ID as in like a number. You'll actually see it says right here string ID, and so we will just call this alabaster oven, like so. So there we go. What do we need to do next? We need to create an instance. And the reason that we need to create an instance is for our onBlock activated. Now I've actually already gone and created the instance here. So let's just do that from scratch. We're going to say at, and you know what? Control-Shift-O, just to get rid of that. We're going to go at instance, and the instance is going to be our mod ID, and we are going to say public. If I could spell public right ever in my life, that would help. We're going to say public static Neocraft instance, and let's go ahead and import instance, and there we have it. So that's taken care of. So now what we want to do is we want to go and we want to create this onBlockActivated method. So let's head to our block class. We're going to take this out since this is what we're working on right now. This is going to be a public Boolean onBlockActivated, and we're going to want world int x, int y, int z, and I hope that you realize that when we start doing this, really what we're doing is we're gathering the world and then coordinates right there. We're going to need a player, so we're going to do entity player, and we'll just name him player. We're going to do inside float, hit x, float, hit y, float, hit z. one too many comments in there, so let's get rid of that. So we're going to have an if statement, so we're going to say if world is remote, we want to do forge mod loader, so fml network handler dot open GUI, and it is actually going to be player our mod, right, which is going to be our instance, neocraft dot instance, our mod GUI ID. Now this, typically what you'll do is you'll put a number in there, and then you will match that number in what we're going to create later, which is the GUI handler. One of the best things that you can do is actually come to where your declarations are for your furnace and do public static static final public static static final integer. We're going to call this GUI ID alabaster oven, and we're going to make this equal to 0, like so. So really what we're doing is, if we ever need to change this, because it's referenced in so many other places, it'll be referenced in your GUI handler, it'll be referenced here, what you can do is you can actually just change that ID right there. So what we will do is we will say neocraft dot GUI ID alabaster oven, and then of course we'll have the world X, Y, and Z, and what we need to do down here of course is return true. Let's import entity player like that. So we've created our instance, we've created our ID for this particular block. The next thing that we need to do is to create the GUI handler. So to create the GUI handler, it doesn't like that. Oh, you know why? Because I haven't saved it here. It's not actually existing in the world. So there, got that saved. Let's create the GUI handler. So what we'll do is we'll go to our classes here, and our classes, our packages, and we will right click on this, and we are going to do new class GUI handler, like so. And this is going to implements GUI handler, like so. We're going to import that. We're going to add our unimplemented methods. So really what we've got here is the different ways that we can activate this block. So onBlockActivated, over here, what happens is if we right click on it to activate it, it uses this GUI handler to decide, hey, where and what am I going to use to open this up, so then that way you get your interface and your slots and all of that stuff. We're actually going to do that now. One of the other things that we need to do though, now that we have this, is let's just go back to our main modding class, and we're going to make sure that we have a means by which to access this. So we are going to say that this is going to be a network registry dot instance dot register GUI handler, and it is going to be for this, and then new GUI handler, like so. And then of course we'll need to import it. So there we have established our link over here to our handler, Now we need to get this bad boy built. We're only going to have one thing in it for right now, so let's just start here, and we are going to say tile entity, and we will just name that entity. It's going to equal world dot get tile entity, and this is pretty straightforward. It's going to be X, Y, Z. Apparently it didn't actually take those X and Y and Z like so. So what we want to ask ourselves, Control Shift O, import tile entity, yes it's Minecraft, is if what we're accessing, this entity, is it actually a tile entity? So if it is not equal to null, if it is in fact a tile entity, we want to do a case statement, right? So really what we do is we say, okay, if the ID is this, we're going to do this. If the ID is something else, we're going to do something else. So what we'll do is we'll type switch, and then ID, which is this guy right here. So ID, and we are going to say case neocraft dot GUI ID alabaster oven, and then we're going to put in a colon, and now we're going to pretty much tell it what we want it to do. So if entity is an instance of tile entity alabaster oven, then what we want to do is to return new GUI alabaster oven, and we're going to reference player dot inventory and tile entity alabaster oven entity. We're going to close that up. Otherwise, return null. Instance of. So we'll go ahead and import that. However, you'll see that we still have an error here because we haven't actually created this class. But that's okay. That's okay. What we actually want to do here is we're going to copy all of this, and we're actually going to take it up here to the server section. However, the server doesn't access a GUI, it accesses the container. So we're going to change that up a little bit. And again, we don't have a container either, right? What we are going to do here, we're going to leave this episode off with some errors, and I know that people hate leaving off errors because they want to get in and they want to cruise around. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to jump in, and let's go ahead and create this class for our GUI, and we're actually going to put this not under handler but under GUI. We're going to finish that, and we're going to say that this extends GUI container, and we're going to import that. We're going to add our constructor. Now here it's asking for a container, right? Now we're not going to do that because we're actually doing the container over here, right? So we don't actually need to do that. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to do our container here, and we're going to say container alabaster oven, and we're going to say that it is bringing in inventory player and our entity. right? Because that's what we're actually bringing over here. We're bringing over our inventory and our entity, which is the tile entity alabaster oven, right? So we're already doing that. However, we need to properly bring those over. So what are these things, right? This is inventory player, and we're going to call that just like we have below, player. And we are going to say tile entity alabaster oven is going to be equal to entity. And let's go ahead and do our imports on that. Import that. We're going to import that. And we have some unimplemented methods, so we'll go ahead and do that. We'll get rid of this to do. Now we'll leave the to do because we actually have some work to do there. We need to be able to reference our tile entity later, so we're actually going to do public tile entity alabaster oven is, and we're just going to say that it is alabaster oven, like so. And we're going to say that we need to do this, get rid of that. And so we will say this dot alabaster oven equals entity, like so. And you'll see that we actually do have an error here, right? We have no container alabaster oven. We should probably do that. Let's go ahead and just create that. This will actually go, of course, in our container. Like so. And we're just going to say, let's just save that. It's not going to like it because it's saying, hey, inventory player and entity. It's trying to send that stuff over. Same here, right? It's trying to send this stuff, this inventory player and this entity over to here. So what we can do is we can say extends container. We'll implement that. See, this is a tricky one. If I'd done this first one, it would have been something completely different. So there, we're going to add our unimplemented methods. We're going to bring that down a bit, but we actually need to do one class here real fast. So public, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's okay. Container, what am I doing? Container alabaster oven inventory player, because we're bringing those over, right? We'll just call this inventory, and then tile entity alabaster oven is going to be our tile entity. And import that. And we'll import that. And we'll actually, just real fast, we'll say private tile entity tile entity alabaster oven. And again, we'll just say alabaster oven, kind of like we did in the other one. Like so. And then this dot alabaster oven equals tile entity. Done. We'll save that. Still doesn't like it. container alabaster oven. Likes it here. Doesn't like it here. That's okay, because we're actually getting a little bit long here. So we're going to actually go ahead and pause today. We're going to come back and tune up some of these errors here. Save that. And we'll get those worked out. So in the meantime, this is Neil. Thanks for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more, tell me. The more you like and subscribe, the more it helps me out. Thanks, guys.